Well, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending upon where you are in the world, and welcome to today's DevOps.com webinar. I'm Charlene O'Hanlon, moderator for today's event, and I welcome you. We have a great webinar on tap. I'm very excited about this one. This is some really cool technology. But before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping items we need to go over. First of all, today's event is being recorded, so if you miss any or all of the event, you will have the opportunity to access it later. Following today's event, we will be sending out an email that contains a link to access the webinar on demand. And we are taking questions from the audience. So if at any time during today's presentation you have a question for any of our speakers, please don't wait, don't hesitate. Just use the question and answer tab on your interface and submit your questions. And we'll try to get to as many as we can near the end of today's webinar. We also have a very interactive public chat feature on the interface. So I'm hoping that everybody will engage with us during the presentation. Hopefully we can get some comments, questions, whatever you want to send over to us on the chat feature. We'll be more than happy to take and respond in kind. All right, and then finally at the end of today's webinar, we are doing a drawing for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. So please stick around. Hopefully you will be one of our 4 lucky winners. All right, with that, let's go ahead and kick off today's webinar, which is how to back up, share, and archive stateful operations on OpenShift. Our speakers today are Ankur Desai, who is the head of product at Robin.io, Lan Vuong, who is the architect at Red Hat Marketplace at IBM, and Zach Taylor, who is the technical lead, operators and meetings at Operators and meetings at Red Hat Marketplace at IBM. Welcome to all 3 of you. I do appreciate your being here.
Thank you, Charlene.
Ankur, I know that you were going to be kicking off today's presentation, so I'm going to take myself off camera, put myself on mute, and I'll be right on the back end when we get to the question and answer period.
All right. Thank you, Charlene. Hi, everyone. This is Ankur Desai. I'm the head of product at Robin.io. And today we're going to talk about how to back up, share, and archive applications on OpenShift. And we're going to especially focus on the ease of use today, how to do it very easily and how to do it economically, right? So let's first talk about why there is a need for application backups and application archival on OpenShift. We all know that public clouds, right, hyperscalers like AWS and GCP and Azure, they have unlocked agility and cost savings. For example, you have marketplaces, you have, certified product catalogs where you can easily choose what you need. It's already tested, it's already certified. It, deploys and it is ready to use within minutes, and you pay only for what you use, right? And then as soon as you're done, you can basically get rid of the deployment. Now, that same flexibility is not available for private clouds and hybrid clouds. And this is what we are trying to do together with, Red Hat Marketplace. With Robin.io and Red Hat Marketplace, for the ephemeral workloads, such as AI/ML, where, you're doing data pre-processing, feature extraction, model training, or ad hoc analytics, or, periodic reporting, where you're only using the compute power, let's say, once a month. All of these ad hoc workloads, right, you need the ability to, one, basically, quickly deploy the tools you need to do these tasks. So that's where a certified catalog on Red Hat Marketplace comes in. At the same time, you need the flexibility to, once you're done, you don't want to lose all of your work, right? So how do you quickly back up? How do you quickly archive your work? And then the other key aspect is, how do you only pay for what you use? And, especially on the software licensing side, where on-prem, right, you don't have the flexibility. If you're using, let's say, your OpenShift cluster with Robin for AI/ML workloads, let's say only for 3 days, before today, you didn't have the flexibility to only pay for the 3 days of use for software licensing, right? And that's just a big problem we are solving together with Red Hat Marketplace. And we'll talk more about that flexibility as we talk further about, how Red Hat Marketplace and Robin can help you do this. So to introduce Robin, it is a Red Hat certified operator that sits on top of OpenShift and creates a storage and data management solution, right? What it means is it is a native storage solution. So you're not actually integrating an external third-party storage system with your OpenShift cluster. This will actually create a storage solution on top of OpenShift. And then it creates a storage and data management layer across all of your OpenShift deployments, right? And then you can run any stateful applications using the data management capabilities that Robin provides. Now, Robin is, it's a tried and tested solution. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen, there are, Fortune 500 customers who are using Robin at petabytes of scale. And we are also recognized by leading industry analysts such as GigaOm, Gartner, and IDC as a leader and outperformer in Kubernetes storage. Now, as you're deploying the applications, right? I know we're talking about backup and archive here, but when the application is up and running, right, you need certain capabilities. When you deploy, let's say, a database, on day zero, you need the ability to quickly set up your storage, in a cloud-native way, so that you can pull all the storage resources available to cluster together and create a resource pool. You also need high availability for your data, right? If your persistent volume goes down, you need the ability to basically point your pod to a replica of that persistent volume so that there is no interruption in the service. And then on day zero, you also need advanced placement policies. For example, certain workloads are very performance sensitive, especially things like databases, right? So you need to define that my storage and compute should reside on the same host so that I get best performance possible, right? So these things are needed on day zero that come out of the box with Robin. And as you start operating these applications, there are other requirements, right? So especially there is performance requirement where, in the long run, you basically need, almost bare metal performance. Because Robin is a software-defined solution, you don't want to, lose a lot of compute power to the software-defined storage itself, right? So Robin's footprint on the compute side is less than 5%, right? You almost get bare metal performance. And then you need ability to manage your capacity, right? So if the size of the volume grows, the persistent volume, underlying persistent volume should automatically grow. If you need to add more disks or more storage capacity to the cluster, that should be really easy, right? The third key aspect is observability. If something goes wrong, the storage solution will tell you not only that something has gone wrong, but what is the blast radius and how many people will be affected by this, right? So how many applications might go down as a result of a disk going down. So end-to-end observability. And then the last part is what we're going to talk about today is data management, right? How do you snapshot? How do you roll back your applications? How do you back up the applications to the cloud or a third party or, a remote cluster? And how do you move your applications between different clouds, right? Let's say you're running OpenShift on AWS and OpenShift on Azure. How do you take an application from AWS and put it on Azure, right, on OpenShift? To do that and to actually make it really, really easy, Robin brings in the concept of, application awareness. So when you deploy an application on OpenShift, let's say it's a MySQL database, right? It's not just the data that you're creating. You're creating a set of components that define the application. So the data would be residing in the persistent volumes, right? But there are configuration components such as config map secrets, and there are metadata components such as pods and how many pods were running, how many resources were consumed by those pods and stuff like that. So all of these components put together actually create the application, and that's what Robin brings to the table in terms of application awareness. When you register an application with Robin, we understand all of the components that actually make that application, right? So now, when we auto-discover the application's data, metadata, and configuration, we wrap them in a single entity. So going forward, it becomes really easy to manage that application. Now, one example is application consistent snapshots. So the snapshots are, these are redirect on write snapshots, which are basically, residing on the same disk as the persistent volume. These will help you quickly recover from user errors, right, or failed upgrades. So here, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, snapshotting an application with Robin is really easy. You simply say Robin snapshot and give the application name, right? Now, when you do that, we not only snapshot the underlying volume and data, we actually snapshot the entire application. We understand the metadata, the configuration components, and we will create a consistent snapshot across all of these components at the same time. So it becomes really, really easy. And the same thing, while rollback, you have, once again, the ease of use with a single command. You say Robin rollback, and you give the snapshot name. Now, what happens is we will make sure that we will roll back all of the components, not just the persistent volume, but all of the components at the same time. So that actually gives your application, the consistency it requires. Now, snapshots, although they are very useful to recover from user errors or failed upgrades, they rely on your disks or your hardware being intact, right? So if something goes wrong, let's say, what if your disk goes bad or your server goes down? In that event, you do need backups that are on remote locations, right? So the backups, the use cases for backups is basically you want to recover from disk and server failures, right? Or you want to meet disaster recovery environment requirements, or you have compliance requirements, things like, I need to back up my application at least for the past 30 days, right? That's a compliance requirement. So in this scenario, Robin once again provides a simple way to back up the applications. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, it's a simple command that says OC Robin backup, and we will give the snapshot we created on the previous screen, right? We'll give the snapshot we want to back up and an S3 bucket, right? I mean, it could be S3 or Azure Blob, or it could be Minio on-prem, but all we need is basically a off-cluster location, an object store where we can push all of these backups, right? So once again, the backups are application aware. When you take a backup, we are not only backing up your data, but all the components that are related to your application. So we will capture the application's data, configuration, and metadata, and we should be able to then create a backup that is fully application consistent, right? Now, restoring from the backup is very easy. You basically say, Robin restore, and you give the bucket name or the repository name. And then you say, okay, take the snapshot I want, and then you restore it. So when you restore this, you basically are restoring the entire application, not just the data, right? So it becomes really easy to restore the entire application on, let's say, a new cluster, or even on the same cluster, or you can share the applications between different users. One thing of note here is the backups are forever incremental. What that means is, once you take a backup, right, the first backup is full copy of the data, but from there onwards, only the changes are captured and backed up. So this is very efficient use of storage as well as the network, right? Because you're only sending the bits that are necessary to be sent over the network, and on the secondary storage side, which is your object store, you're only storing the incremental changes. You're not storing the entire copy of the application every time you're taking the backup. And that means you can, take backups frequently, because there is, the penalty of taking a backup is minimal here, right? Only the changes are, if there are no changes, let's say you set up a backup every day, and in the past 24 hours, there haven't been any changes to the application, then there will be, basically, nothing sent over the wire, but you still create a snapshot, but the size of the snapshot and the data that is sent to the backup location is pretty minimal. And this is critical, right? This is as you create your backup strategy, as you create your application archival or storage strategy, you have to make sure that you're backing up on a regular interval, and the backup is not costing you actually a lot of storage capacity. Now let's talk about sharing the applications and archiving the applications, right? We talked about backup and how they are application aware. Now, the same functionality can be used to actually create an archival. So in the previous slide, we saw how you can create an object repository or object store repository for your backups. Now, that can be created in the cloud, right? So on the screen, you're seeing the 3 OpenShift deployments, one each on-prem, AWS, and GCP. And across all of these, you can create a common backup and archival repository. Now, when you create a backup and push your application to this repository, it will be basically stored in a completely, full application mode. What that means is you can take that backup anytime, and you can restore it on any OpenShift cluster you would like, right? So here on the screen, you're taking a backup on-prem, and then you're pushing it to your backup repository for archival, and maybe a month later you want to restore it, but this time you don't want to restore it on the same OpenShift cluster because you may not have access to it, or maybe it's the compute power is already being used for other workloads. Now you want to basically, restore this application on AWS, right, on OpenShift. You can easily do that, right, with creating, application level backup. The benefit is now the entire dependency and the entire application is contained in that backup. So you can easily take that application and port it across clouds if needed. So this has multiple use cases. You can archive your projects in the cloud repository. You can actually use this as a multi-cloud portability solution where, sometimes, this is not for archival, but actually moving your application across different infrastructure choices, right? You want to go from AWS to GCP on OpenShift, you can easily take the application and port it to OpenShift on GCP. And then sharing applications across teams and geographies is another benefit. Let's say, you have a team, data science team sitting in San Francisco and one team sitting in London, right? Now the data and the application, if it is in San Francisco, the latency and the compute overhead that is put on the San Francisco cluster would be great if it would be too much if everybody from all over the globe is just pointing to that same cluster, right? Now, what you can do is basically to share the application across different geographies and different teams. You can simply create a backup in your backup repository, and then that backup can be restored as its own full application when required on a new cluster, right? So now the team sitting in London can actually create an AWS cluster with OpenShift in their local availability zone, and they can restore the application there, and they will have access to the exact same application, or exact same data analytics pipeline or data science experiment that was created in San Francisco. Now, this is very useful because sharing applications, especially complex stateful applications like AI/ML pipelines or databases on OpenShift is not easy. It's not easy to move applications from point A to point B or give them from team A to team B. Now with Robin, we are actually making it really, really easy. Now, this is I'll hand over to Lan now, but I do want to mention that you can download Robin Cloud Native Storage today from Red Hat Marketplace. We also have a free for life edition. At the same time, we also have consumption-based pricing, and that actually gives you the flexibility you need for ephemeral workloads, right? When you archive your applications using Robin, then you can basically, decommission Robin from your OpenShift cluster, and you stop paying for Robin licenses, right? It is available on per hour basis, and Lan will talk more about that. The documentation is available at docs.robin.io. So if you're curious about any of these functionalities, right? If you want to actually explore further, feel free to reach out to us to slack.robin.io, or you can explore further on at docs.robin.io. And with that, I will hand it over to Lan. Lan?
Thanks, Ankar. Thanks for reviewing the benefits of Robin. I'm going to move forward and give an overview of what the Red Hat Marketplace is, cover some of our key features. So I'll get right started into that. Today, a lot of our software ecosystems are not ready for the cloud, right? It's you can only run on specific clouds, specific versions. It's not easy to migrate applications, as Ankar mentioned. There's not a lot of movement. It's hard to move from AWS or to Azure, and there's not really a way to consistently manage that across the multiple clouds that we have. What Red Hat Marketplace brings is a modern way to try, buy, deploy, and manage your OpenShift certified software, right? It's just a lot easier to use our registration and automated deployment to take certified software and deploy to any cloud. It allows you a lot of freedom to run things that are on-prem as well as public clouds. And it also allows you to, with a Red Hat Marketplace Select offering, go through and pre-approve or manage software for your enterprise. So this allows being able to mark certain things that are, within meeting guidelines or compliance for your enterprise, and allowing your developers, your cluster admins to purchase that software. I'll go into some more of those details on the next slide. So here, I just wanted to cover some of our storefront. This is what you would see if you were headed to the marketplace at marketplaceredhat.com. You can see that it's very easy to browse and search for software on our marketplace. We have our search bar at the top. There are products in various categories. You can search on those. There's also, if you clicked on all products, the ability to search software based on the type of products that you want, whether it's operator-based, SaaS, or perhaps a download. I'll get into that. And also the delivery methods, right? Robin is our partner, one of the first to go live with our pay-as-you-go offering. And you'll see, the various offerings we have in that space. There are also products that have different frequency in terms of being able to purchase. Some have a monthly subscription. All of our PayGo products have the monthly subscription, and there's also a few that have the annual, right, in general subscription terms. We have a lot of documentation, and there are a few tutorials to walk you through what each of the capabilities are for this enterprise, for this platform. We also have a nice blogging section as well that provides articles on how-tos to do. It's not just from the marketplace team. These are from our partners, from like Robin and other partners that actually walk through the various features, right? What do their products bring? You can manage and view all of these products and purchase them through the marketplace. It gives you a single point of view, a single dashboard to not only browse products, purchase them, but also manage the deployments, your usage and spending. So I want to walk you through what a product page would look like, the marketplace select actually, with our curated catalog. So I mentioned this a slide or two before. This is our select offering, being able to provide a customized view of our marketplace. So this allows you to have customized branding, your logos, colors, and whatnot, and also be able to pre-approve the software. A lot of times, the procurement department is separate from the actual cluster admins who would be deploying the products, right? So we want to make sure that the software the teams are going through are actually compliant and approved for purchase. So it allows you to mark different products as available for the development teams. And then we also allow you to track spending. So there is the ability to, purchase a product and say that this is for the finance or the HR department and show the usage data that way, right, with the subscriptions. Of course, this is adding the ability to scale and using our automated deployments, as I mentioned, to any of the cloud providers for OpenShift. Here is the product page for Robin. Just wanted to highlight some of the key features here. As with any of the other products within our catalog, we have some key features and benefits on the product page. On the left rail, you'll see the certification standards, right? All of our operators go through the Red Hat certification process, go through the vulnerability scanning, and you'll also see the capabilities level for each product. For Robin, we have a level 3, which allows them to go through the full lifecycle support, right? Giving you more advanced capabilities with their operator and deployment. We'll also see the categories that Robin is included with big data, database, and storage. This just allows you an easy way to see what type of product this is, how you can filter, maybe see other products that are complementary or in the same categories. Across the top, we'll see, information about Robin, the software version, which OCP versions it is required to run on, and what type of product it is. So I just wanted to highlight some of the key features here. It gives you a lot of information in a consumable manner, right? Being able to quickly glance at and see what does Robin provide me as a product and the capabilities that Ankur had mentioned earlier. Once you've clicked in and looked at the pricing tab, this goes through all the various additions that each product provides. With Robin, we have several different additions providing you different capabilities and support. As Ankur mentioned, we have the Free for Life edition, what we call our free edition. There's also a trial that is available for 30 days. And then, of course, we have the pay-as-you-go edition. This is where we're actually measuring and watching the usage, and you're paying, per node hour for the use of Robin. This allows you to get started quickly. The use cases that Ankur mentioned with the ephemeral workloads, being able to only pay for what you use, right? Not having to be tied into a subscription for a month, but only actually being able to pay for what you use. So it kind of goes along with looking in general. I think most folks are aware of why pay-as-you-go pricing is important, right? It allows you a lot of flexibility. You can deploy quickly and only pay for what you use and take it down as needed, right? There's no lock-in with having to use something for a month or a year, perhaps being able to scale up and scale down. A lot of our developers like this option to try out things quickly, right? Be able to prove a certain project or proof of concept, and then being able to tear it down and before deploying it to production. So we think this is a great pricing model. At Red Hat Marketplace, we're promoting this. It just allows companies and their developers a lot of flexibility and room and being able to try out different products. So once you've clicked on the edition, I just wanted to highlight some of the items here on the purchase configuration page as well. As I mentioned, Robin is available for 42 cents per node hour. You can see here we've on all the purchase products, we've clearly laid out specifics of the configuration. This is per node hour. Its billing term is per month. And you can see here on the right-hand side with purchase summary, the type of product, we are billing monthly, and then the subtotal is 0. And that, of course, is because this is usage-based, right? So again, there is no cost up front. We would only bill for actual use of the product. So this is always billed in arrears. And you can see as you move forward what that looks like. Just wanted to show you the pending charges. So once you've purchased the product and gone through our deployment, being able to, various clusters, whether it's on-prem or in the public cloud on AWS or IBM Cloud, you can see usage data, right? So here, I wanted to show you what that looks like, being able to view and kind of forecast how much you're spending, right? So there's no surprise at the end of the month that you're getting this large bill. You can see as you progress, as usage is being sent in, as there is being reported, and Zach will cover that a little bit later on, this view will be updated, right? It gives you an estimation of what your charges are, what the potential taxes are, and it lists all the products in here. So you'll see on the, for this particular snapshot, we just have the Robin, but you can see the top 5 products that have the most spend, right, for your account as well. You can manage it. This is updated. The update interval is dependent on each product. So it could be hourly, it could be every 6 hours or daily. It just depends on specific product that you have, but it will give you a fairly recent view of what your potential charges are for that given month, right? Let's move on to trying to, 1 second here. There we go. Having a little technical difficulty. So I also wanted to highlight the dashboard. So in addition to pending charges, which gives you a current view of what you're spending, how that is dispersed across the various products, we also have a dashboard view that kind of breaks it down a little bit. Rather than just a current view, this is more projection and forecasted spend. So here on the left-hand side, you can see what the active subscriptions are. I have 2 purchases and 5 trials. I'm starting to use the product. So we have the current pending charges, and then what it would look like over the course of the next couple months. If you scroll down on the page is the right-hand side of the screenshot here with, what subscriptions, what entitlements, right? So every purchase of a product within the marketplace, we term it as a subscription. We have which ones are renewing, which ones are expiring. And this just allows you to, give a heads up on being able to plan accordingly. As you can see here, I have Robin listed, and it's expired in 30 days, right? That is for each subscription, it is for a month. And then as it moves forward, it's also set for auto renewal. So you kind of see it listed in both columns, being able to see that I have Robin up for expiration. And then also I'm going to auto renew because I do want to keep using it, right? So, and it would only bill me, even though it's auto renewed each month, it would only bill me as I'm using it. So there's no tie into a certain base amount or anything like that. You are only billed on your actual usage. I also see here that on the bottom right, I have another trial that I'm testing out, right? That is expiring in 30 days. It's not also listed renewing because our trials don't renew, but I just wanted to highlight that even with trials, you can see which ones you're testing out and how that would work, and then the actual usage. I just wanted to go through some of the invoice history as well. So I'm covering a lot on the billing, since this is one of the most important areas, one of the reasons why we want to move towards a pay-as-you-go model, right? Being able to only pay for what you actually use. So we see here the invoice history. I can see all my invoices, the historical data. It's a very self-explanatory section, but also being able to download the PDF files for each invoice and for each product I've purchased, and be able to analyze that data. And then you can also export the data here, as you can see, being able to get that in a CSV file, and then input that into whatever internal data processing you have for accounting management and so forth. You can analyze your costs and your usage there. We also have the users dashboard, which I mentioned as part of the marketplace select. There are a lot of capabilities with the marketplace, being able to see your products, being able to manage it from a single viewpoint. So here I have all my products that I can browse. I have the actual purchases that I've bought under my workspace. I can see as I'm using the products for Robin, doing various proof of concepts or test projects, things that might just last a few days or a few weeks, being able to see that and plan accordingly as I can make decisions for the next project, and being able to see what that actual usage data and my billing costs are. Okay. So that kind of walks you through at a high level the overview of what the marketplace is and how we handle, being able to deploy to multiple clouds, automated deployment, how we handle pay-as-you-go, and why that is desirable for our developers and our large enterprises. I'm going to hand it over to Zach now. He's going to cover, excuse me, excuse me. Sorry, I'm going to hand it over to Zach now to cover the technical details of our metering functionality.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Lon and Ankur. My name is Zach Taylor. I'm the tech lead for the marketplace on the operator and metering project. So, all this on the metering side for marketplace has been powered by my team. So I'm going to go briefly over some of the functionality, why we built on OpenShift, and just kind of wrap up the technical side. This is kind of a high level, so we're not going to go too deep into technical details. So, Red Hat Marketplace really leverages OpenShift, and one of the reasons for that is OpenShift powers metering in a way that standard Kubernetes deployment really can't. So OpenShift is a great platform that's for running enterprise applications. Because of the great tools that ship with it. An example of this is the metering stack that's included. It comes with Prometheus, Thanos, Cube State Metrics, Kubelets, that collects the node information for container and pod usage. And all these, like I said, they're prepackaged and they're there for you to use. So the Red Hat Marketplace actually leverages these tools to provide the complete metering solution for partner products like Robin. So a part of the whole solution is the Red Hat Marketplace Operator. This is basically the client-facing side that you install this on your OpenShift cluster, and this will bridge the gap between a partner application like Robin and the Red Hat Marketplace for delivering data. This is both a Red Hat certified operator, and all its containers are Red Hat certified. It means they've been scanned and approved by the Red Hat team. The Red Hat Marketplace supports OpenShift 4.5 or higher at this time. And the project's open source, so you can go and review our code at the GitHub organization I have here. And lastly, the installation instructions for operator are available on the Red Hat Marketplace website, and it's pretty simple installation instructions. So you can just go and follow install and start using Robin Pega. So this is a brief slide that shows the overall kind of usage collection architecture. And this is a very high level view, but essentially a customer makes a purchase on Red Hat Marketplace. They then install that product to their OpenShift cluster. The next thing that happens is the product installs a meter definition that defines the billable metrics and workloads for that product. The Red Hat Marketplace operator then monitors the workloads related to the meter definition and collects that data. And finally, we periodically report on that data and synchronize it with the Red Hat Marketplace backends for bill processing. The operator, we care about your security and data privacy. So a couple of things we do with this is we really care about your data. The Marketplace operator only collects data that it needs to perform the billing. It's not going to look at any application data internally, database data internally. It's going to only collect on usage data that is reported by the product or usage data that is being reported by OpenShift, like CPU use and memory usage. And the second point I really drive home here is we care about your security. So the operator isn't trying to rule the world. We have least privilege access, as least privilege as we can possibly attain to still accomplish our goals. We transmit all data encrypted and protected by the OpenShift cluster OAuth and role-based access control. And the data is also not sent directly to the partner. The data is sent to Red Hat Marketplace for and stored internally to the marketplace for bill processing. And then last kind of point, this is not really the operator side or our client side. This is more Red Hat Marketplace, and you saw some of this with Lon, but Red Hat Marketplace provides this integrated billing for partner products. So invoices do not come directly from the partner. They come from Red Hat Marketplace. And this is the one place that you can go, you can track your usage and spend across all your products in one place. And that's all I have.
All right, great. So much good information in those slides. I love it. Okay, guys, we have plenty of time for question and answer period. So please, if you have a question for Zach or Lon or Ankur, please go ahead and use your question and answer tab, or you can use the chat tab on your interface and put your questions in. We'll be happy to move it over to the question and answer period or the question and answer tab. Let's see, we've gotten a couple questions in so far, so why don't we just dive into the ones we've got here. Let's see, Lon, why was there a 0 subtotal on the purchase page? I don't know if that was for you or for, yeah, I think.
Yeah, so I think this walks you through the purchase confirmation when you've selected the addition of Robin. So since it's a pay-as-you-go billing model, it's 0, right? As I mentioned, there is no initial charge or lock into a subscription amount. It only is billed after you actually use the product. So all of our pay-as-you-go products are billed in arrears, hence the 0 subtotal on the purchase confirmation page.
All right, great. Ankur, this one is for you. How often can you back up your applications with Robin CNS? Ankur, I can't hear you. I don't know what the.
Sorry.
There we go. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Fine, thanks.
So the backups with Robin are forever incremental. What that means is the penalty of taking a backup. The storage cost is pretty minimal, right? Every time you take a backup, it's going to be only the incremental changes that are going to happen. Having said that, when you take a backup, it's usually taken from a consistent snapshot. What that means is it requires quiescing and unquiescing the application. Now, that means there could be some downtime for the application for quiescing. So we do recommend our customers keeping in mind what how critical the application is, how much downtime you can schedule for, right? And by downtime, I don't mean hours of downtime, but a few minutes where you're quiescing the application. We have customers who are taking snapshots and backups as often as 15 minutes, but at the same time, it depends on the requirements and the application, nature of the application for the customer. Now, archival is a little different, right? Archive, you don't, with backup and snapshot, you can actually schedule the snapshots and backups at a regular interval. You can say every hour, take a snapshot and back it up to my cloud. Archival is a little different, where when you're done experimenting, you want to actually keep the experiment for future reference in the cloud. So there, it's a one-time thing, but at the same time, the underlying technology is still the same, right? You're basically doing the same thing to actually archive your project. And the benefit there is basically once you archive your project, you can free the compute resources on your OpenShift cluster. You can do something else. You can use it for other applications, for other analytics. And then when you need the experiment or data, your data back, you can actually restore from your archival. So now this, I think that answers. It's a long-winded way to answer the question. The answer is it depends, but our customers are doing it as often as 15 minutes. At the same time, you have to be, careful of the application downtime.
All right, great. All right, as I said before, plenty of time for question and answer. So if you do have a question for any of our speakers, please go ahead and use that question and answer tab or the chat interface, and we'll move it over. I think this is another question for you, Ankur. How would we handle a case where we need different authorizations or permission access after doing a restore?
Yeah, so the way it works in Robin is basically we do create a secret key for every backup, right? So if you want to restore your application, right? Let's say you have backed it up in S3 and you want to restore it, you do need that encryption key, right? That is secured by access control that way. Now, when you use that encryption key, that the user that uses it basically has the access to the encryption key, and we will assume that then that user should be able to actually perform any operations on the restored application, right? So the original the admin or the developer that creates the backup automatically creates the key, and that key has to be shared with the person who is restoring the application, right? And if the person has access to that key, that we basically, assume that this is an authorized access, and the user that is restoring the application should be able to, then perform any operations needed, right? So now the user that created the backup and the user that is restoring the backup could be different. They could belong to different organizations. It's basically all connected using the encryption key.
Okay, all right. Great. Next question here. I believe this one is for you, Zach. Once I buy the Robin, how would I deploy it to my OpenShift cluster?
Yeah, so once you make the Robin purchase, so if you've gone to the marketplace, basically what you want to do at that point is register your cluster with the Red Hat Marketplace. We have some simple automated deployment steps for you to install the operator. And that's going to walk you through actually registering your cluster. That cluster is going to show up in the marketplace, so you can actually see it's reporting there. And we also provide manual instructions if you just want to do one-off or make it a part of your CI/CD pipeline if you manage your OpenShift instances that way.
All right. Excellent. Well, that is all the questions that we have right now. I'm going to leave the question and answer tab open for a few minutes to see if we get any other questions. And while we are waiting, just a quick reminder to the audience that today's event is being recorded. So if you missed any or all of the event, you will have the opportunity to access it later on demand. Following today's webinar, we are going to be sending out an email that does contain a link to access the webinar on demand. The webinar is also going to be on the devops.com website, so you can always go look for it there. Just go to devops.com/webinars and look in the on-demand section, and it should be right there waiting for you. All right, let's see if we got... Okay, so far no other new questions. So while we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and do the drawing for the $425 Amazon gift cards that we mentioned at the top of the hour. So without further ado, our winners today. I'm so focused on the question and answer period. Our winners today are Ed B. Congratulations, Ed. Our second winner today is Bianca P. Congratulations, Bianca. Our third winner today is Jack K. Congratulations, Jack. And our fourth winner today is James W. Congratulations, James. We'll be following up with all 4 of you via email to get your gift card over to you. So please check your inbox. And if you don't see it there, please check your spam folder. We just got another question in. Thanks, Michael, for sending it on over. The question is, Robin Express sounds very interesting. Would you advise it for teams working in open source?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, although Robin itself is not open source, it's a standard Kubernetes operator. What that means is we are conforming to all Kubernetes guidelines. It's a certified Kubernetes operator. We are a CNCF certified distribution as well as a storage provider, right? So we are conforming to all CSI guidelines as well as APIs. So it should be, because this is a standard Kubernetes operator, this basically works on any flavor of Kubernetes, including, your open source Kubernetes or EKS, AKS, OpenShift. So yes, even if you're using, open source technologies, it's absolutely a valid solution, right? Although Robin itself is not open source, we are open architecture, right? So all of our APIs, all of our integration points are basically what the Kubernetes community has defined through their API definitions.
Excellent. All right. We did get another question in that I believe, Ankur, is directed for you. How different is Robin CNS backup from Valero? Are there any potential differentiators?
I would say yes, right? So Valero is a backup solution. So it's what you would call a secondary storage solution, right? With Robin, we actually have a single solution for your primary storage, that is storage management, as well as your data protection and backups. So the benefit here is basically Robin, being primary storage, understands the underlying storage provisioning and all of the metadata related to storage. And that kind of enables us to do redirect on write snapshots. When we create a snapshot, we are not copying the data altogether again, right? We're basically creating a metadata marker saying, okay, for this snapshot, these are the relevant blocks, right? So that basically it's within seconds, you're creating the snapshot of your application. The same thing with backups. We are doing incremental backups. And for us to do that, we have to understand what are the changes, what blocks have changed since the last time you have taken a backup. Now, the benefit is because Robin is the primary storage solution here, right? We understand what blocks have changed, and then we can actually create an incremental backup. So that gives you two benefits. One is basically your secondary storage capacity is basically used very cost efficiently. You're not actually creating copy of the data, entire backups every time. The other benefit is, you're not using your network, right, that much. So if you have an application that has 5 GB of data, and since your last backup, only 10 megabytes have changed, right? So Robin will understand what those 10 megabytes are, especially what blocks have changed, and we will only send those blocks to add to the incremental backup. Now, this is possible because Robin understands the primary storage. We are the primary storage solution in this case, right? So this is, I think that is the major differentiation, where Valero is a generic backup solution for any storage class or any CSI provider. Robin is not a generic solution, but it's actually an integrated or all-inclusive solution for primary and secondary storage. One benefit is that you also don't have to pay for, a different primary storage and a different data protection solution, right? So you basically are not looking at two different solutions, two different vendors, right? And there are significant cost savings to be had when you actually have one integrated single solution for the primary storage as well as your data protection backups.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Ragaba, for sending in that question. And again, I'll keep the question and answer tab open for a minute just to see if we get any last minute questions in. Let's see. Also want to remind the audience or let the audience know that today's slides are actually available in the handouts section. So you can click on that tab. This is handouts, and preview or even download the slides themselves. So please feel free to do that if you are interested in taking home a copy of the presentation. All right, it doesn't look like we're getting any more questions in, so I do want to thank everybody who did submit questions. We got some really great ones in, so thank you very much for that. Again, just a final reminder that today's event has been recorded, so we will be sending out an email that contains a link to access the webinar later on demand. And again, the webinar will be on the devops.com website. So you can just go to devops.com/webinars and look in the on-demand section, and it will be there waiting for you. Ankur, Lon, and Zach, please, thank you very much for today's presentation. Good stuff all the way around. And judging from the questions that came in from the audience, I know they got a lot, and the comments, they got a lot out of it as well. So thank you again. I really do appreciate your time and your expertise.
Thank you, Charlene.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
You bet. I also want to thank the audience for joining me today. And this is Charlene O'Hanlon, and I am signing off. Have a great day, everybody, and please stay safe.